Hello everyone. I hope you all had a good time watching our videos. So today's video, I want to bring about how do you do cost calculation in AWS, Azure, and Google. So this is with our comparison series. So just continuing on that and intending to show, because cost is one of the main pillars in cloud computing. Unlike on-prem, where we procure the VMs or the hardware, in AWS, we have to ensure that the architecture and the cost, they align together. Without further ado, let's get started and let's move forward. So this is the agenda. I'll do a quick walkthrough. That is why cost calculation matters in cloud, and I'll provide an overview of AWS, Azure, and GCP cost calculator. I'll show a sample case study on how exactly we can do cost comparison and the conclusion of this. So this one's going to be a short one. So why cost calculation matters. So first thing is budget adherence. Nowadays, in a lot of organizations, FinOps or financial operations is a main thing. And unlike on-prem, where the depreciation, a lot of organizations have stacked savings in on-prem because they could depreciate the assets. In cloud, it is a rental part. So you can't use so much depreciation as you could do in on-prem. But with that said, cloud is not expensive. In fact, on the contrary, cloud can help produce a lot of the benefits. Maybe something fun of the video. Drop in a comment if you want to learn more details about our experience here at Arina Technologies on how we have helped customers in terms of cost savings. But budget cost is one of the main important pillars in cloud computing. As I said, right, so calculating cost is going to be critical to ensure that the spend aligns with the budget allocated. It is essential to maintain financial health and avoid overspending. The second is cost-saving opportunities. Regular cost calculation, it will help identify areas where one can save money. It may be through choosing different resources, consolidating services, or utilizing reserved instances. So there are a lot of benefits in that. And resource allocation efficiency. So understanding the costs can lead to more efficient use of cloud resources. By tracking an organization's expenses, the organization can help optimize resource usage and eliminate waste. It facilitates informed decision-making. Cost calculation, it helps the business as well as the chief officers of an organization get a more factual basis of the cost that they're going to have when hosting on cloud their application, which is where they can make evidence-based decisions on which services to use. And if some service could be done, they could kind of plan properly their budget and forecasting for that. And this also will help there for forecasting and scalability. That is, it'll help in the cost calculation and vital for the organization's budget. So this is if for a customer we had done a case like a work where we had shown them that, okay, how important cost calculation is. And that is one of the charts I'm showing you, where over the course of an year, where with proper cost planning, how much the savings the customer is able to achieve compared to if they don't have any cost planning in place. And at Arina Technologies, we have proprietary cost FinOps model, business care template that we have worked a lot with customers. So please feel free to drop in a comment and let us know if you want the template and how we can help your organization on that part. But this is, you could see, right? If you have proper cost planning, you'll save a lot of money. And if you don't have cost planning, in fact, you're going to not only not save, but you may overspend as well. Now, without further ado, I'll kind of quickly show you how the cost calculator for each of these cloud works. So let me go to my browser, and I have these cost calculator open for you. Now, in AWS, this is the link out here, cost calculator. So let me kind of just show you, open a new window here. So if I do this, if I just even go on Google and search for it, and this is where I will be able to get AWS cost calculator. It's a simple search. It'll be probably at the top of your list. I think everybody would know, but I've seen that a lot of organizations, a lot of people don't know about this part, which is where I wanted to showcase here. Now, this is where one can go and choose and trade estimate in AWS. It's pretty intuitive. They earlier had another GUI, but of late they have moved out of that GUI and this is the region. So we all know in AWS, we have many regions, not only in AWS, in any cloud. There's going to be multiple data centers that are hosted in multiple locations, and that is what are called regions. So this is a region, and you could choose a local zone, a wavelength zone, but for the sake of this, we'll get into the region part of it. Virginia is one, because the reason I wanted to choose Virginia is that because in Azure, AWS and in Google, Virginia is a common location where the data centers are, so it will help provide a lot of similarities in cost comparison. every service is not available in all regions, but Virginia is one of the more popular ones, and in fact, the main ones for most of the cloud providers. So, like I'll choose here, you could choose here any service. You could just type it here. Say if I want to use the search, I could type it here, I could configure it, and I could do the cost calculation. And I have the pricing already done. I'll show you how exactly, but this is the overview of the AWS cost calculator, where you could, whenever you come in with an architecture, it is imperative that you come in here, do the cost calculation, and then add that as part of the business case. So now I'll go to the Azure cost calculator. Now this is the Azure cost calculator. I already have it done, and I have a sample use case comparison as well just to show you. But if I have to show you the pricing calculator as well, now this is, they have these saved estimates over here, but let me just simply just show you in a new window. So this is where you come here, you will come to the pricing calculator. It'll come back to the same machine, but this is a similar view that you could see in AWS as well, where we have all these services here. I could type in and I'll see these lot of options out here, whether it's AI, Azure AI, Microsoft Genomics. Now you see that in AWS there was an OpenSearch. Azure partners with Elasticsearch, which is where you don't see Elasticsearch popping up, but it's going to be a separate calculator, how to go about it. But this is where one can see it's kind of similar to AWS and how one can do the cost calculation. Now, with that said, let me get to the third one, which is Google. Now, this is the calculator URL for Google. Let me show you here. And let me open in a new browser, new tab. You see, this is the cost calculator, and this is what you could see. All right, this is still being worked on. It's kind of not updated, where their new services may not be there. So for which we have to look into other aspect. But I think I've been using this calculator for quite some time, and at least majority of the services, that most of the popular services are there that we can see. So here one can go, they can choose here. This is where I was saying, right, that a lot of the legacy services may not be found here, which is where we have to kind of do them separately. But if we search here, if I use the same word search, right, I could see the same options out, not same options, but similar options I could see out here. And if I type, say, Elastic, I could see this option, disk, right? So each service in cloud has different name, and that is where you could see the cost from the comparison of AWS versus GCP versus Azure video, where I have done a deep dive into each service, and compute is one of them. But with that said, let me show you the sample cost calculation I had done for all three ones. And this is let me start with AWS, and let me quickly show you. Let me edit, not this one, but so this is the cost calculation if I have to edit. So now what I want to do just show is if I have a design which has AWS S3 and Lambda, which is nothing but a function. If I have that, what is the cost comparison going to be for each three cloud providers? And this is where the Azure is one I have chosen. All right, this is the examples in saved estimates of mine. It saves it. I have similar, where in Azure it's called storage account, and function is same as Lambda in AWS. In Google as well, I have this comparison done. I have cloud functions and I have storage as well. So I wanted to show you comparison. But again, the cost of calculators are not intended to be perfect or accurate. That's not the goal. It's an idea. Intention is to give you an idea, because when in production, there's going to be real-time data, which is going to be a lot different than what you have been assuming, which is where these are supposed to be taken with a variance of around 20% of the actual number to proceed. Otherwise, if you go with the accurate, you're going to be in for a shocker here. But this is where, if you see the storage cost, I've taken the standard option here. And if you see the standard, I have taken 1000 GB per month. And how many requests I could do, the foot copy I have taken, and the data return is 1000 GB. I know 1000 GB can be large, but for a lot of organizations, this may be kind of the smaller one as well. And data scan by S3 bucket. Now, if this is where you could see AWS provides you a lot of the calculations that it can go. I won't go into details, but the main thing is the cost is around $23.72 here for AWS. Now, if I get into Azure, let me expand the storage one. I have taken again East US, which is in Virginia. Blob storage is Northwest 3. Performance is standard. Now, here they have different tiers. Let me know in the comment if you want to get into details about the tiers aspect of Azure, and I can get into that. But keeping it standard, this is where we have these storage account type. The namespace is what we want to have hierarchical, because you want to have it in a folder structure. Access tier, we'll keep it hot. And redundancy is least redundant storage. So local real storage. And then the capacity is 1000 GB, and we'll do it pay as you go. We do not have reserved. If we have reserved, we're committing for the compute space that we can use. And that is a whole different cost calculation, because AWS and even Google, they have these savings options that one can leverage. But this is the data transfer. I have just kept it as of now for 0, right? Even if I put it like say 100 or 10, it won't drastically change the price, because these are minimal expenses out here in terms of the data operations. So, but if you see the price of the S3, it's coming to Azure Blob Storage, it's coming to $52. It's not too much, but one of the things that, at least in compared to Azure, what we have seen is the tiering is going to make a big difference. Unlike in AWS, where we are fine with using a standard, it allows VPC endpoints, and the VPC endpoints is charged separately. In premium, that is a big difference. But something to just keep in mind, which tier you are going, in production majority you will be going, it's a premium tier, not a standard tier. So that is where here. And so in Google, this is the Google setting. I'll just do the advanced. There's not much difference here, but let me do that. And here there are two functions called first generation, second generation. Second generation allows you to have longer running functions. It's something for a topic for another day. So for which, just to keep it similar, I have just chosen first generation. The same Virginia is the tier 1. The memory allocated, let me do 128 just to keep it similar. And then the request per month in million, I could probably change this to 10. And then this is the milliseconds. I have given the same milliseconds, how much time the function execute. And this is what I will be able to get. Now again, this is the number. It can be a little confusing, but I've tried my best to ensure that I followed these details to understand the exact setup that is there. So then it may not be so much of a comparison, because if you see, if I change this to be some difference, million, I can have a different number altogether compared to the other one. But let me just put it back to 100 million. So as the other ones also were, around 100 million, the number of requests. So this is where you see the storage is comparable. It's around $21.42. AWS was around $23.72. And Azure is around $50 something we saw, right? So that is where we can see the cost. So let me log in again. It kicked me out. And then let me get into the pricing calculator. And these are my saved estimates. So these are my saved estimates over here. So with that said, let me now show you the function. Function is similar. And since I'm already on the Azure, I'll show you the Azure function, calculating the cost of that. Same thing, consumption. There's a different pricing, premium and consumption. And putting premium is, that'll put it in a VNet. It'll put it in a private endpoint. And that will increase the cost way much. So it's a big difference again. So it's something I'll cover as part of next videos. But again, if I choose 128, 100 millisecond execution time, this is what I'll be getting. The cost comparison is around $33. If I go to AWS, and if I choose this here, and let me go back to YT and choose Lambda here. I can choose 100 requests, similar, 100 million demand to 100 rupees of processing time, 128. And this is the storage. I will get similar cost comparison that compared to the Azure one. And this is the show calculation. I'll see them. So here it shows as 0, but then because it's considering free tier for me, but in production we will not have free tier, and which is where the amount is going to be charged from a user. Because I have this free tier, this is where it's asking me. Actually, this is the one. Sorry. This is the cost of it, $54.80 for. Just for the other one was the provision concurrency, if we have to do that. But majority of times you don't need it. But like a lot of times we want to have the provision concurrency, we want to have the required compute to be able to do the processing. So this is the cost. Likewise in Google, if I have to check it out, right, so I can always do these 3 ones. This is the details. I have this around 100 million. I have this memory allocated, which is 4582. The first generation, the region, execution time is 200 milliseconds. This is the cost again. Don't consider this as okay, that Google is expensive compared to AWS, or Azure is cheap. It depends on a whole lot of parameters, but this is intended to educate the business who are not technical in terms of coming up with the business case, understand the setup in cloud, and help ensure that we have the right expectations when working with the business, especially when coming up with the non-functional requirements. That is where this is mainly for education, ensuring that there are no surprises going forward. So I hope this provides a good comparison on how to go about calculating the AWS, Azure, and Google cost calculation. So drop in a comment if any questions or comments in terms of the calculation that I showed, or if any further inputs are required as part of the topic here. So with that said, let me now quickly go over to the last slide, which I have as usual. I like showing you the comparison just to show. Now in this one, I couldn't really put much of a comparison, but still, I hope you're able to use this. Now interface you saw, each one provides a similar option. You could do a search. You could add the different service that is there, and accordingly get the calculation. Service selection, each one provides pretty much all of the services that are there. It could be that some new services are not updated in calculator, for which you may have to go to the specific page itself, and in the spreadsheet, come up with the calculation for that. Customization, you saw that there's a lot of customization one can do. There are different parameters that one can do. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, but it can be helpful in terms of the cost calculation and customization. Real-time updates, like AWS, Azure, you get real-time updates in the sense that based on your workload, your cost calculation can be updated. Even Google is there, but at least I've not seen that so far. I've just seen it in AWS and Azure. That is where I've just got it down. Cost breakdown, also you will provide the single cost breakdown we saw. So that is something similar to all. And exporting estimates, you can export estimates and all provider, right? You can have Excel, you can have PDF, however you wanted. There's a lot of documentation in all three cloud providers. I don't think there's any depth of documentation. Pricing models, there are different pricing models. AWS, Azure, they have this pay-as-you-go, reserve instances, on-demand pricing. Google also has a pay-as-you-go and sustained use discounts. They have a different pricing models for all these enterprise customers. There is region-based pricing. Each region is going to have separate service and separate pricing. So be careful to get the accurate number you want to ensure that you have to select the right region where you want to deploy your workload. Additional tools, there are additional tools available in each cloud provider. There's AWS has Cost Explorer. It has AWS Budget. There is billing. There is alerting that one can do. Azure has pricing calculator. It has cost management tools. It has billing, alerting, Azure Monitor. We use a lot for the purpose. So likewise, Google also has this calculator that I showed you, cost management. And similarly, you have these thresholds that one can use. So with that said, I hope this video was able to help you provide how you go about doing cost calculation, which is something everyone should do whenever they are setting up their application cloud, because it shouldn't be that you get a sticker shortcut when moving to cloud and comparing from on-prem. And you are myopic in short-term view that cloud is going to be cheap because some person told you that as soon as you move to cloud, you're going to be cheap. So I hope you like this comment. Please like, subscribe, share, and drop in a comment on the next topics you want to see. Thank you and have a good day.